Hey, eighth graders, welcome back to Mr. Wakefield's shop slash classroom. Got my whiteboard that I dug up in the house and brought out to the shop and hung. We'll see if we can get through this like I would in class. So right now, you need your observing mechanisms packet, which we had last time. We're on day 2 here of observing mechanisms. We went through this first page, not the whole thing, got through what we needed to get through. Second page, haven't really talked about, but go to it, check it out. So the top part talks about gear trains, says a mechanism is used to transmit rotary motion and torque. We kind of talked about this on the PowerPoint when I went through the PowerPoint stuff. We're going to get to this in more detail. I'm going to say, let's not worry about this. Right here, where this arrow is and this circular arrow, I talked about that just briefly the other day, that force is a push or pull in a straight line. Torque is a push or pull in a circular rotation. We might, sometimes you might get confused and use torque when it should be force and force when you should use torque. Not a big deal, okay? Just know that force is a straight line, torque is rotary. Then this bottom part on page 2, follow along with me on that. It says gears turn in a circular direction. There is an inverse relationship between torque and speed in gearing. What does inverse mean? It means opposite. So like a 10-speed bicycle has 10 different gear selections. When you pedal up a hill, you use a gear train that provides more torque or turning force, but in doing so, less speed. Just like we talked about when I showed you the video of the bike the last time. You sacrifice speed to gain torque, or you sacrifice torque to gain speed. Okay, you can't get them both. Okay, you get one or the other, and that's what gearing does. Okay, turn over to page 3. When you pedal on flat land, use a gear train that provides more speed, but in doing so, less torque. We talked about all this. Okay, go to the first bullet right here. And right here, they show a couple gear trains, or a couple, they're actually chain drives, is what we call them, just like on your bike. The drive gear is the input gear. The driven gear is the output gear. It says to label them. So what Project Lead the Way does is they call inputs and outputs drive and driven. I like input and output better. I think it's easier to remember. You might think drive and driven is easier to remember. What they're saying is the drive gear would be the input, and it drives the driven gear. So the driven gear is driven by the drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of teach you both. So I'm going to draw out this first one. Okay, this is the A. And the one with the, hopefully you can see this, okay, there's a little reflection. Okay, you can tell this is the input because it has the pedals on it. Oh, gotta put my chain on there. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. You're gonna get 4 points on both of these right here. 8 points on these two little pictures. Here's what you're gonna do. Label with an arrow the input gear and label the output gear on both of them. I did A for you. You go ahead and do B. So remember, the input gear is the one with the pedals. Go ahead and do that. Pause your video real quick. Okay, you're back. Now, hopefully you did that for B also. Now, under input and output, add the input is, what did I say? The input is the drive gear. So in parentheses, write drive, and the output is the driven, right? Driven. So label drive and driven on both of those. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you got your B done is another 4. You've got 8 points. Pause your video, write those. Go. Okay, now you're back. Hopefully you started the video back up again. So I'm going to erase that. And we're going on. The next part says, okay, I'm down at these 3 bullets right here. Right now, I want you on your own to fill those 3 in So pause the video right now, read those over, fill them in, and then start it back up. And I'm going to give you the answers. So please be honest, try it. Yeah, you're going to get credit either way. But if you understand these, things are going to be easier for you later. So pause the video, do those 3 bullets, then unpause it and see what I got to tell you. Ready? Go. Okay, now let's go over those 3. So I'm going to say right out flat, tell you right away, you should have BAB, B-A-B. Why? Okay, let's look at it. The gear train in which diagram provides more torque? Remember, when we talked about the bike, we said, the bike and the drill press, we said a larger input increases speed. A larger output then would increase torque, right? So let's look at, if you look at A has a bigger input than it does output, right? So then A is creating more speed, right? So the first bullet says, the gear train in which diagram provides more torque? Obviously, it's not A. We just said A provides more speed. Therefore, it's B because it has a bigger output. So that's B. The second one, the gear train in which diagram provides more speed? More speed, we just said, was A. Then which gear train would you use to ride up a hill? Obviously, you're going to use the one that provides more torque, right? Which is B. So it should be BAB. Hopefully you had that right. If you didn't, go ahead and change it. You'll get credit.